Hello, and welcome to this Next Gen Study webcast. My name is Oriana Pound, and I'm the Global Next Gen Club Ambassador for PwC. Joining me today are Lari Raitavuo, Mario Miettinen, Will Arafin, and Sue Kwon Ung. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you.
Let me start by introducing Mario. Mario is the current gen at Ensto, an international family business that designs and produces smart electrical solutions. She originally joined the business as a next gen and is actually the mother of our next guest, Lari Raitavuo. Lari is clearly a next gen at Ensto, but has also set up his own entrepreneurial ventures. He's the co-owner and CEO of Helsinki Originals, what he describes as a What's Next company, and is also a board member at another company in the sport and wellness industry. I have no idea how you find time for all of those, but great to have two different perspectives from two different generations. Will is the Director of Business Development at his family's oil and gas business in Indonesia and Singapore. He's also the co-founder of his own entrepreneurial venture, Coinworks, which is a fintech startup in the peer-to-peer lending business. And finally, but by no means least, is Sue Kwon Ung, who is PwC's Asia-Pacific Entrepreneurial and Private Clients Leader, and also the founder of our Asia-Pacific Center for Family Business Excellence. Welcome to you all.
Hi.
Now for a couple of quick housekeeping points before we start. Please do submit your questions online, and we'll try and answer them during the discussion. If we don't have time to get to all of the questions, we'll try and get back to you afterwards. Also, please do interact with us on Twitter using the hashtag on the screen. In 2016, we launched our second Next Gen study, Great Expectations. And today we're launching the follow-up, Same Passion, Different Paths, how the next generation of family business leaders are making their mark. One of the statistics you often hear quoted is that only 12% of family businesses make it to the third generation. So that's a tall order for the next generation. How do they respect the legacy of the founders, of their parents? But how do they also drive change, as well as pursuing their own career aspirations? These are just some of the issues we tackle in this study. And I'd like, just before we start, to share a quick snapshot of the finding.
In family businesses around the world, a new, savvy, ambitious generation is coming of age and preparing to take the reins. The individual journeys of these next gens can look and feel very different, but many face similar challenges. Above all, they want to be listened to, and they're determined to make their mark. Rightly so. Many next gens are educated, ambitious, globally minded, and socially engaged. They share their parents' entrepreneurial spirit, and they also think that business should be a force for good, as well as a means of generating wealth. PwC has been researching the next generation of family business leaders for a number of years. Now, we've taken that research even further. Having in-depth conversations with next gens across the world, we've discovered that next gens are following four major paths. Some are stewards. They lean towards following a conventional family business career path, training, studying, and preparing themselves to keep the firm profitable and professionally managed. Others are transformers. They focus on innovation and reinvention of the family business. They rely both on their own talent as well as support from those currently in charge. Intrapreneurs also have transformative ideas, but they opt to carve out a specific venture within the firm rather than overhaul the entire business. These new ventures can look and feel like a startup, but they still enjoy the secure support and funding of an established family business. Finally, There are entrepreneurs who make a clean break from the family business to start their own ventures. Some next gens can follow more than one of these paths. Each offers specific challenges and opportunities. For multi-generational families, it's most important to agree what success looks like, then work together to make it happen. With established goals, parents can more effectively offer support, be it financial backing or key advice from their own experiences. They can also offer mentoring, planning, and emotional support. Next gens often lead the charge on strategies related to digital technology. Our research shows how companies that acknowledge risks or challenges related to tech tend to be more open to letting next gens take the lead. Next gens are concerned about social responsibility, moving beyond traditional philanthropy. They pursue social investments that reflect the specific values of their family and business and drive socially beneficial outcomes. We have identified 5 factors that play important roles in helping the next generation to succeed, whichever path they're on. We call them the 5 C's, a culture of freedom where next gens can pursue their own ideas, make mistakes, and take responsibility for achieving success. Communication, based on mutual respect and trust, valuing both parents' experience and next gen's new ideas. Clarity of purpose, including good old-fashioned strategic planning and formal demarcation of roles and responsibilities. Credibility. Next gens need to earn co-workers' respect, often by working and training outside the family firm. Commitment. Next gens need to commit for the long haul, and current generation leaders need to support them. A next gen's journey is more complicated and riskier than ever, and they also have more freedom, choice, and opportunity than previous generations. Our new report showcases stories from those who have successfully navigated these challenges and come out the other side. Whatever your vision of success looks like, this information can help you get there.
Let's get started with our discussion. We're going to hear first a bit from our guests in the room, and then we'll take your questions. So please do submit them online. We've heard how ambitious the next gen are to make their stamp on the business, but they also face a set of issues which I don't think their parents did. So I'd like to kick off the discussion with Sue Kwan and have him talk a bit about what he thinks some of the challenges facing today's next gen are. Sue Kwan.
Thanks, Lorena. Well, today's next gen actually is in a different environment of their parents. You know, it's a rapidly changing world. There's often disruption, there's digitalization, you know, and you need to constantly innovate. More so, you're actually competing with the world, and not so much it's just within your country. But with all this excitement, there's also a lot of opportunities. And the next gen are actually well placed to bring the family business to the next phase. There are many roles that the next gen can play, as you can hear from our survey findings. It can be that of a steward or a custodian. It can be that of a transformer, an entrepreneur, or an entrepreneur. Whatever roles that you play, you must actually have the passion and belief in the values of the family business. As our survey results say, it is same passion but different paths. So whatever paths you choose, it is with the prospect of keeping the family business alive and surviving for generations to come.
Thank you, Sue Kwan. Will, maybe I could start with you.
Sure.
I mean, you both work in the business, but you've also set up your own entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah.
How do you balance those two, both being a steward in the business, but also being an entrepreneur, and trying to make sure you're successful at both?
Well, I will be lying if I say that I'm able to cope for both, but I mean, it's not being realistic, but it takes discipline, effort, and sacrifice. And through times, you learn to manage your time better. And then I guess that's how it works.
What was your sort of motivation and inspiration to set up your own entrepreneurial venture?
Well, I think from the beginning, I've always been very ambitious. I believe that you won't be more successful than your parents or your previous generation if you stick with the family business only. So for me, venturing out is a real option for me to be better than the previous, I hope.
And how do you use the two of them to help each other? So does your role in the family business help your entrepreneurial venture? And how does your entrepreneurial venture help you be successful in the family? Talk a little bit about that.
I took both of the experience in the startup and in the traditional brick and mortar business and applied both experience to both the business. So it's very interesting result that you get. Like, once I start the fintech business, you begin to question that many things can disrupt your traditional business. And you begin to talk more about how to ensure you can hatch your family business, to ensure it can proceed to the next generation. And then I bring back what I learned from the traditional business, which is experience where I become more a listener in the startup when I'm more senior. Well, all the people that's working in the startup is kind of like younger than me, so I tend to give them more freedom, more creativity, to make more responsibility. It's something that I learned from my family business.
We find I think about a quarter of NextGens break away from the family business to set up their own entrepreneurial ventures. So, Larry, that's a perfect cue to turn to you. We have both your mother and you here, but maybe I could start with you. You worked in the family business, but you've set up your own entrepreneurial venture. Talk to us a little bit about what led you down that path.
I think it was mostly that the bigger ships are turning slower, so I decided that for me, for my entrepreneurial spirit, I wanted to go faster, and I didn't get that from the family business. You have corporate governance and so on, and startup can be agile. So I wanted to really go through from the beginning, because as my grandfather always told me, or the story of him is that there is only the fastest can win, and he was really good in being really fast, and now it's my time to show in my own ventures that you can achieve your dreams. And at the same time, I can say I have left the family business. The family business is in my heart in every decision I make. I think every NextGen is born into responsibility, and they need to go and be responsible and make the decision that where and what they want to do. And I have decided that I can support the family business through my own ventures, and the funny part is now they're paying for it. So they didn't listen to me in the first place. So now they have to pay for it. So, but anyway.
So what advice would you give a NextGen who wants to both stay connected to the family business but also set up their own ventures?
Can you repeat the question?
So what advice would you give to a NextGen who both wants to stay connected to the family business but also set up their own venture?
Yeah. I think there is one word that I have learned in my ventures is vanguard. So I think every NextGen should be a vanguard of change, because the change, as we learned today and here in Singapore, that the change is the only thing that will happen, and that's why I would recommend to actually be the vanguard of the business. So be in front, try things, fail fast, come again, try again, and at some point it will work.
Fantastic, thank you. I'd now like to turn to your mother, Mario, who was originally a Next Generation, and I don't know whether she had the same impatience when she joined. But maybe, Mario, you could share a little bit of your journey from being a Next Gen to being a current gen, and now seeing your son set up his own ventures.
To be part in a family business, it is always in my mind a hate-love relationship. And when I was 19 years, I had my hate family business period, and I decided not to join the family business. So I went to university and I studied in the Faculty of Education, and I became a teacher. And after 10 years, I knew what that was. And then I noticed that we have a family business. And suddenly I noticed I'm involved in that. And I was very happy, and I am still. It's almost now 30 years. But the decision, either you are working in the family business or outside the family business, is the next gen's decision, of course. I can't do that decision. So the family business can't be a prison. It has to be love relationship, as I told in the beginning.
And at Ensto, how do you think about succession?
I started about 9 years ago when I got a text message and a nice picture from my children and all next generation. They were in my summer house in Finland, and they sent me a picture taken on the terrace, and there was only one line: "We have decided to continue the family business." And that was a positive sign to me that they were discussing together the issue, what that means to be involved in the family business. And then we started to plan the succession, really. And 4 years ago, we had an outside consultant interviewing everybody. And also they got through Big Five analyses. So we were looking a little bit what kind of leaders and managers they are. Some workshop with consultants and philosophers about the values discussion, but always so that next generation had the idea what they want, not what we want.
Thank you, and I think there's two comments that come out of that for me. The first is that succession is a process, not an event. But the second is about choice and giving the next generation the choice about what path they want to follow. And Sue Kwon, maybe I can come back to you. You know, you've worked with many different families, both current and next gen, who follow different paths. What advice would you have?
Well, I guess, it is having an environment whereby you can actually make those decisions. Those decisions whether you want to be in the business or not. And as we have discovered in our survey, there are these 5 C's to be mindful of. One is really to have the culture of freedom. Freedom to express your views and so on. The second C is that of communication. The ability to communicate freely with your parents and vice versa. Who wants to be in the business? Who doesn't want to be in the business? The third C is that of clarity. Having a good old strategic plan of how to get from here to where you want the business to be. And credibility. How to gain the respect of your parents, your uncles and aunties, the long-time employees of the family business, that you've actually earned the right to be in the family business and not just because of a surname or because of the bloodline. And at the end of the day, the final C is that of a commitment. Commitment to bring the family business to the next level and for many, many generations to come. And that, if you practice the 5 C's, I think, there will be something that will help family business sustain for a very long period of time.
Thank you, Sue Kwon. Mario?
I would like to comment because I really like this 5 C's idea because it's easy to remember also. But one thing you are missing, and that is the 6th C, which is creativity.
Yes.
Which is really important, and I really believe that the next generation and these young people sitting also here and watching this program really can have the input into the family business and create new ways of working.
Totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sue Kwon. Thank you, Mario. We see how ambitious the next generation are. Will, Lauri, you're great examples of that. But you also see, we hear from a lot of next generation that they struggle to make the case for change, the credibility that Sue Kwon's talked about. One of the areas where we do see that the next generation are often given real freedom to make change is when we start to think about digital and new technologies. We see that, I think about 3/4 of people say it's absolutely critical to have the right strategy for the digital age. But slightly depressingly, they also say, I think it's something like as few as 7% think their business is doing this really well. And there was a great example in our research from an individual who had started talking within his family about digital technologies and was really struggling to get his family to take him seriously. So what he did, and I think it sounds similar to your example, Larry, was set up his own consultancy. They're now buying his services. So that was his way of being taken seriously. But maybe, Will, maybe I can come to you. What's been your experience of how you've built credibility and driven change within the family business?
For my case, it was pretty different. So once I graduated, I was thrown back to the family business. So it's, and honestly, my previous generation is not a great teacher. But luckily, I was a fast learner. So I was thrown in a swimming pool, actually, with sharks. Yeah, so I have to learn the hard way. But learning the hard way actually is very interesting. Mm-hmm. You realize the imperfection, the inefficiencies, and that's where you tackle all this. That's where you gain your credibility.
And Laurie, what's your perspective on how you've built credibility within the family business, but also as an entrepreneur with your new venture?
I think it comes to, for me, it's communication. I for sure, the biggest pain in the ass for my mother, because I'm calling like 12 times a day to ask questions, to be curious about the family business. And I think that's one of the keys for our relationship is communication. We come to discuss. We can disagree or agree, but we come to a conclusion in the end. And I think that's the most important thing that I can give an advice on is communication. Everything starts from there in every family, that you have a good communication relationship to every party in the family.
Mario, I think you have 3 children, 2 of whom are directly involved in the business, and Larry, what's your perspective on, how do you really start to take their ideas seriously? How do you help them to build credibility in the business?
Learning them to do the questions as much as they want, because this is really the main point. So please help yourself and phone me again. I think that they have to be, first of all, interested in the business, whatever the business is. Is it the family business or their own business? So in that way they can then, if they have passion and ideas that they want to be involved in the family business, the doors are open. But I have to admit that they have to work harder many times than those working outside family. And it's not an easy case to come and work in family business, because everybody is looking what you are doing, where you are going, what time you are working. So you are as a role model. And they probably can also think that you are like a secret agent in the company. And that can be a problem. But it depends your attitude and how you take your position and how you earn your position.
We hear this point of needing to work harder to earn that credibility time and time again. But you also mentioned the role of outsiders, and I know you mentor a number of entrepreneurs and people in family businesses, but I was interested to hear from both Larry and Will, what role have mentors outside the business played in helping you as you develop your own careers? Maybe Will, start with you.
Probably going with building your networks, that's very important. Getting experience from people outside. Discussing about your problem with forums and stuff, it gets into you that there's not only you having the same problem. So many people have the same problem. So you can grow together, learn from each other, and hopefully solve it together.
Yeah. And Laurie, what about you?
I would first of all kill the idea of mentoring, because it's not about someone telling you what to do. I think it's sharing 2 generations of knowledge, and the older generation has something to give, and that's life experience. And what the next gen has to give is the entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that's a duo. So in my opinion, I use it as a reverse mentoring. So it is actually sharing my ideas and giving ideas to the old generation, and also otherwise them telling me that which roads I can take. But I myself use a lot of reverse mentoring. I have been tens of times in different mentoring, reverse mentoring in different companies and outside the family business. So I believe getting the inspiration and ideas for my path from even outside the family business.
Mario.
Yes, I would like to add, because I have been mentoring, it's not giving answers, but I think the main point is that I'm opening the doors for the younger people, and that is because I have the network, they don't. And like Finland is a small society, as here in Singapore also, it's quite easy because I know a lot of people. So this is really important for the young people.
Well, I think you made a really important point there about it being a two-way process.
Yeah.
That the current gen can learn as much from the next gen
Yes.
as the
Yes,
next gen can
exactly.
learn from the current gen, and thinking
Yes.
about it in that two-way.
And I can go back to kind of the networking is really important, I think, in that sense that it's not about giving money, it's about actually sharing networks and so on in family business. So you have to start that really early, and that's something that I'm really grateful to my mother, because we started working on networks when I was 15, and from there on today, and even continuing the process of building networks. And I had a dream when I was 13 that I wanted, when I'm 20, I want to have a friend or contact or network in every European country that I can call to and go there. And then I decided that, okay, I want a global network, and what do I need to do? I need to do a goal, and it was when I'm 30-year-old, I want to have the global network done, and this Singapore event was fantastic. Now I'm handling the China market and Asia market totally through this, and now I have to focus on different continents next.
You're still missing a few countries, are you?
Yeah, I'm missing few, but I'm going fast and aggressively towards my goal, because that is something that I believe, as my mother just said, that it's creativity and networks that the robotization can't handle. They can't do that, and that if you have that, your future is safe. But otherwise, it is going to be hard for the different digital age which is coming forward.
And I'd like to shift. You mentioned something about legacy there, and I'd like to shift to the idea of legacy and social impact. I mean, we've always seen that philanthropy and supporting communities is an area that sort of family businesses have at their heart. But we're seeing from a lot of our conversations with the next generation that they have a slightly different perspective on it, that they want a more structured approach, that they really want to drive certain impacts with the business, as well as having a successful business. I think, Will, that was something you referred to. So I was just interested, I mean, Mario, maybe I could start with you. What kind of legacy do you want Ensto to leave?
First of all, I would like to start that in my mind there is not a profitable business without understanding the society. So in that way, we are, as entrepreneurs, family business owners, we are one part of the society. Ensto is in clean tech business, so sustainability and sustainable issues are very important for us. One example for product development, for example, is that every time we produce a new product, it has to save energy more than the past. and this kind of issue you can do a lot. Then I visited here in Singapore the Art and Science Museum, which was interesting because my brother, for example, is very interested in art and is helping young artists to come more known. And I'm really interested to work closely with the universities and researchers. And to combining, for example, art and science is something which can give you new perspectives, totally new. So the museum was really nice. I liked it a lot.
Excellent.
And then one issue, of course, I have been also proceeding is that we need more women in tech business, and this is something I'm working also in.
Will, what's your perspective in terms of the role in the community and sustainability?
I think it's the future. I mean, in Asia, we are manufacturing countries, especially Indonesia, right? So I think it's great for the next gen to think of not only of profitability, but to give back to the society. So building some things that is more green, more energy efficient, I think that's something that the future should look at. Yeah.
Larry, your perspective?
I agree that it is the future, and everything I do is somehow impacts. If it's sport or wellness, if it's what's next, it's about people and will be about people. So why the profit is the number one thing when we can actually help, but not forgetting that the business needs to survive. We can't help nobody with no money. So I think that's important to remember in the social impact area. But I think it will be the future. So I agree with Willie totally that it will be something that we will see more and more coming up, and even the customers will be deciding that they're using products and services that are doing social impact. So it will also, the consumers will be deciding that social impact will be the only way, because we're here for each other as people, and we need to protect each other. So that is something that I value, and those values are also in every company that I work with.
So go on.
Well, I guess you compare to the old days, and at least in this part of the world, the way of giving back is to give money, to build a school, to build a hospital. But now I think it's more than that. You actually have to plant the seeds for an idea that will benefit the future generations, back to your point about future. And I think that is the part that I think the next gen can play in ensuring that the legacy is in the form of an idea that actually helps future generations. So I think it's a good development.
Thank you. For our study, we asked NextGen to share sort of their advice. And in their own words, these were some of the points they made to us. The first one was, don't try to do too much too fast if you're in the family business. Really understand the current generation and see things from their own perspective, from their perspective. So always putting yourself in the other's shoes. A point which I think we've already made about building your network as absolutely critical. Another point that came out was listen and learn. You know, your parents have been very successful, and there will be reasons they've been successful. There was also something about putting your money where your mouth is. If you have an idea, pursue it. Be willing to take that risk. And point I think that we've also made about work harder and smarter than anyone else. So those were just some of the points that people we talked to shared. And Larry, maybe to start with you, what would you like to add in terms of a piece of advice to the next gen? You've already talked about being a vanguard for change. What else would you like to add?
When you're a vanguard, you need to execute also. So execution is everything. You can have a million and millions of ideas, but if you don't execute them, you don't have nothing. So the future depends on execution, that we actually go forward and execute and fail also and come back and do it again. And don't kind of miss the execution part, because we have too much ideas So we need to focus on the execution, that we get the ideas actually heard and done correctly, and the future can actually behold us really soon. But I think the society is a little bit kind of slowing down the possibilities of the next generation. So we have much harder times to actually dive into the future of technology and so on, because we have the societies that are still on the 1900s. So I think we have to go forward and be the vanguards of also show the society how to work. And I think that's also a responsibility of the next gen and also the current generation to show what is a vanguard and where are we going actually. So what's next?
Willie, what would be your advice?
I have a couple of points. So, I mean, from my point of view, to get credibility, the first to start, get a degree, right? I mean, it's simple, but having a degree with from an Ivy League, that will help you, at least. And then from the Ivy League, you have your network. And building the network is very important. Like, I mean, Sikwan was mentioning about it. I mean, for me, I take the effort of every lunch that I have to build my new network, new friends, new channels, or meet up with my staff to get an insight of the company. So it's something that the small little things that I do, I think, is make the difference. And then commitment is, I think, like Sikwan was saying, the 5 C's. I've seen some family members that are not very committed. You know, they tend to travel a lot. I think this is something that you need to stay your focus. I mean, if you're running the company, you have to stay focused and committed to do what you want. And in the end of the day, I think result is the most important. So in my company, I think result-oriented is something that we look for. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to move now to some of the questions, because we've got quite a few questions that have come in online.
Okay.
So I'd like to start to move some of those. And I'm just looking at the questions that have come in. Maybe I'll start with the one, we touched on this earlier about credibility at the senior level is a difficult thing for next gens. And I suppose this is a question both for you, Mario, and also you, Sikwan. What are the practical things that parents can do to help their children build credibility? Mario, what would you think?
To be available for all those questions they are making, and as Willie told, training and to go to the university, and this part also is important to get the credibility and the networking. We have quite a lot already discussed about this. Open-minded.
And Sikwan, you've worked with many families. What do you think the parents can do to help their next generation build credibility?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing they shouldn't do is to parachute them in and make them a senior vice president or whatever. And so they need to actually learn the ropes. Doesn't mean that, you know, hey, you open the door and serve tea and so on, but start at the right level and move up. And then you will be able to earn the respect of your co-workers and maybe your seniors. The other thing I will encourage, you know, parents to do is to have some sort of appraisal system. How often do I hear the next gen haven't got an appraiser in their life from their parents? You know, when they do wrong, they'll be reprimanded, but not when they do right. So I think having the same kind of discipline that you have in supervising and nurturing your workers, you should do the same for family members that are actually working in the organization. And through a period of this, you know, you will be able to gauge whether this next gen has the credibility to survive in this business.
It is also a question of who is having the power in the company. So, so this is an open issue that you have to be quite transparent. I want to share you how I did this with my father. So we agreed with my father that he's allowed to go inside the company, discussing with the employees he knew for years, but he was not allowed to give any answers. when they were questioning him. So the answers was something I was able then to do. And he kept the promise. And that was the only way to change the power to the next generation. But he loved to go around in the end, and he was retired, and he had the time also. So it was really, really important for both of us.
We've had a question come in about what advice would you give a next gen who has worked in the business, then left, and wants to rejoin? I'd like to open that up. Who'd like to make a comment on that? I don't know if it's a situation you've experienced. Sorry.
I can start because I have discussed with so many family businesses, and the problem can be when you are next gen and you are working inside the family business that your parents don't let you to go in manager position, and you are in the lower too long time.
Too long.
Yes, and then they leave, and this can be a bad thing for the family business. Very clever family members are leaving the company. So give your children the possibility really to go further and in different places, even abroad also if you have subsidiaries, to understand the other cultures and your employees there. In my mind, family business employees, they like when your children are working in the company because they feel also then that they are really connected to the family.
So maybe a question both for Will and for Larry. You've both been in the business, have your own entrepreneurial ventures. Can you see a path where you'd go back into the business?
Of course, but I'm actually working a lot with the board or future of the board work, and I think I'm not so interested, but never say never. But still don't want to be in the operational level of decision making. So I think it's really important to understand that there needs to be a clear active ownership. Then the board can actually execute with the hiring of the management and therefore go forward. So that is something that I focus on, the future of the board. So I want to be in the future in the boards of our family businesses.
Small comment to this. So we have divided in our family business the ownership strategy and the business strategy. So in Ensto board we are doing the business strategy, and Ensto Invest is open for then all the family members, and the ownership strategy is done in that area. So you can be involved in the family business in different positions.
And we often see that it's very hard to have a clear business strategy without also having a clear strategy for the ownership, and the two very often go hand in hand. We've had another question come in, and it's about how you deal with a current generation that won't let go. Or how do you help influence to drive the sort of professionalization and bring in outside help? Sukwon, I think I'm going to give our panel a little bit of thinking time and maybe let you start with that one.
Well, I guess you need to understand from his position why he doesn't want to let go. And is it because, he just value this because he got nothing else to do? Or maybe because you are not exactly ready. There's always this gap there. And that's why I go back to the point of communication. There must be a two-way communication to understand each other. And you must also understand that, this is a business that is built up by the first generation with a lot of hard work. There are a lot of sacrifices that they have made. And they are not sure whether this will be lost just overnight. And so you need to gain their confidence that you are able to do it. Not only do it, but do it better than them. And the more you communicate, I think the more you will come to this. And also very often, I would encourage the next gen to think of a role for your father or mother that has spent the last 30, 40 years running the business. Maybe, you know, carve out a little role for them. Maybe carve out a little business for them. I one next gen who told me that, you know, he signs all the payments, but the father signs the petty cash. So in a way, you know, you may think it's petty, but by signing the petty cash, he gets a feel of where the company is going, you know. And so understand their role and understand their concern, and I'm sure, you know, both will work out well.
So, Larry, you just said you didn't want to be in the operations, but I suppose the obvious question, will you let your mother still carry on signing the petty cash? But maybe, you know, this concept of letting the current generation letting go. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I think the best way, actually, it's a little rough, but still I think the best change actually happens when the older generation dies. And I think then it actually changes, and the attitude changes. That's why we have, I tell you why I think this is, we decided together with the current generation and our next generation that our family council is only for the next generation. So kind of, I'm really glad that this is the way, because I think we can get more out of everybody in the family council to tell their visions, be honest about their own situation and future, because it is scary when you have somebody breathing on your neck about different things that needs to be done, or responsibility is huge, but maybe they just want to go in the world and Egypt and wherever they want to go and try that. And I think that's also an opportunity that the current generations need to give to the next generation in that sense. And I am really glad that we have a really good communication in the whole family regarding of this. But I have heard and know many stories that are not so nice in this field.
And I think that also takes us to the point of being prepared for whatever the future might hold, because you may not know what might happen.
No.
And Will, I mean, I saw you nodding while Larry was speaking. What's your view?
Well, I hope my family has such a two-way communication like Larry has with mom. For my case, because probably we are more traditional, so talking about the next generation or death, you know, is something that is a taboo in the Asian market. So it takes effort to bring that conversation up. So, you know, I have to go around the conversation sometimes, you know, trying to talk about something not along the line, and then you bring it in. Hey, the other family, you know, is doing this, you know, what do you think about that, you know? So we kind of like give a snippet of what possibly can happen. And what if you're not around? What if this? What if that? So it gets into their head. I hope so, sooner or later.
You've touched on a really important point there. And one of the things we've often talked about is whether or not family businesses here in Asia Pacific or in Latin America are actually different. And I think where we've come to thinking about it is the issues they face are the same, but how they deal with them are very different and will be driven by cultural norms and, you know, what might be acceptable. We heard earlier today from a next gen who'd been brought up in the US and how he would tackle things directly, which wasn't necessarily the way that was expected of him. I mean, maybe, I don't know if anyone, Sukhon, you've worked across Asia and all of the different cultures you deal with here.
Well, I guess you're right. The issues are the same. But I can also see that there is an increasing trend in this part of the world that the first gen are more and more willing to talk about such issues. And they have accepted that, you know, they are not immortals. You know, they see problems when their friends pass away suddenly, when there were no proper handover. They have seen friends that suddenly have a stroke and, you know, can't direct their affairs. And they feel that, you know, better, you know, fix the roof when the sun is shining, when there's harmony, when people can sit down and look at things rationally, and rather than let emotions take over when events happen. And so the earlier they prepare for this, I think the better you will be. And I think succession, in my mind, takes 15 to 20 years because it is about identifying a successor. In this part of the world, the traditional thinking is that the elder son should take over the business. Now, if you find that that is the case, then groom the elder son when he is in his 20s or earlier so that he will eventually be able to succeed. You can't leave it to chance. It cannot be you leave your children alone for 15 to 20 years. 20 years later, when you're willing to hand over, you expect them to be just as good as you. So I think it's a lot of that. It's a contrived process, but you need to do it. You know, as I always say, there are only two pains in life. The pain of discipline of having to do this succession planning and the pain of regret.
I'd like to move to another question now that's coming online, which talks about us being at a critical point in time. Things are changing so fast and we've got all sorts of disruption. What are the sort of biggest challenges you think the next generation, so not even you, but the generation beyond you are going to face? I can see, Larry, you raising your eyebrows at that. What are your thoughts?
I think it comes to the kind of that the anarchy will come when we have the kind of robotization is coming. People don't have work where they will go, and I think that is something that the whole world need to actually do together to solve the problem that we don't have anarchy in every country in the world. And being fighting and actually seeing that there is actually a company from Finland that is doing space travel for app and their slogan is no borders. And I myself believe in that we don't actually, when you look from the space, you don't have no borders. And that is something that we're going to have to solve, that the anarchy will not come and we will be in the nice world in the future. Because it looks really bad at the moment.
Yes, as an owner, I think that also younger generation should have 4 things as listed. What kind of issues you have to remember. First of all, what is the business you are running? It can be 5 years, 10 years. Suddenly you don't have any business in that area. So you have to be ready to change the business area totally. Then the second, of course, is capital. Do you have enough money to run the business or change the business totally? Then the third is with whom? So the people you are working with, and trust. How do you trust and have the trust capital as we have one of our values? And fourth is reputation, which is in family businesses very important because we are showing our faces here and we want our business and reputation be in a good level in every country here globally.
So, Will, when you think about the future, what are the sort of issues you think the next gen are going to have to deal with?
I'll say if you don't change, you'll be disrupted. Technology is moving so fast. You know, it used to be 5 years planning. Now 6 months. There's a new technology. I have a friend who is in a startup. He just disrupt a technology. 6 months later, someone disrupt him. So that's how fast technology is moving. So I think it's better to be ready, plan ahead, hatch yourself, and get ready for battle, I guess.
I'd like to take one final question. And it sort of follows on from that last question, but we've been asked about what do you think about the cohesion of your family in 50 years' time? And I know that's a long time ahead, but also how that relates to the issue of family governance. Just any thoughts?
We will have 60 years anniversary next year, so 50 years ahead. I hope that we still have this kind of open conversation and open dialogue with each others. It's really important. Also, negative issues we can take on the table and discuss. We cry then, and we shout then, and then we hug again. It's really important to have this capability to discuss openly all the issues in the family. But it's more and more difficult when you have more and more owners, of course. And one point, of course, is also that you keep the values. That is the connection between generations and also between all the owners within the family business. So I really hope that the values are similar in all the generations.
So, Will, how do you think about the values point, both from the perspective of your family's business, but also in your new venture? What are your thoughts in terms of how you use those values to bind you together?
Well, your personal ventures is always something very personal. You build your own brands and stuff. But what you experience outside, you hope to bring it to the family business. And what the family business experience, you hope to bring it to outside. So if I'm telling my kids right now that in 50 years' time, what's the plan? I'll say is be creative. You know, it doesn't have to depend on your family business. You can depend on our network that we have built, but please, there's many other things you can change in the world. But if you are happy to be inside the family business, yes, I'm happy to welcome you. Yeah.
So open yourself up to the art of the possible.
Yes.
We're coming towards the close of our live stream event. So thank you to everyone who's submitted questions. Before we finish, I'd just like to give each of you a chance just to sort of share your final thoughts about, you know, how the next generation can both respect the legacy of the past, but also drive change for the future. So maybe Sukhon, I can start with you.
Well, I guess business families, you know, not family business, business families, I think you are in a privileged lot, you know, because you have this business that bind the families together. And as family grows, you know, every grow apart, you know, you stay in different parts of the world, you know, you may rely on love and relationship to stay in touch, but the business actually binds you together. And you have the privilege of, you know, learning from your parents, you know, your grandparents on how to keep this business going. And this is something that I think you can build upon. There's a good foundation for you to bring it to the next level and for generations to come. But one piece of advice is the same piece of advice I've been talking about a long, long time. Communication, communication, communication. Because the only way that you can get there is if you talk to each other openly.
Laurie.
I think I have to quote Gary Vaynerchuk, who puts it extremely well, that you're going to die, so don't wait until your execution of your ideas and dreams. So start working and work hard for your goals. And when you achieve the goals, make another one which is bigger than the last one. So that's everything I can put together like for my...
So as well as your European network, your global network, you want an intergalactic network.
Of course, Mars, you know, Pluto, everything.
Your next one. Will?
My advice would be communication is very important, but do not stop where you are. I mean, you have to try to achieve. You only have one life, basically. Exactly. Try to achieve as far as possible. Push your dreams. Push yourself. Push your limits. So you never know where you're going to be. You might be the next Elon Musk. You never know.
Mario, can I give the final word to you, please?
I really believe that it is a battle between past and future. So to take the positive things from your history, because you have great stories behind, but to understand what happens in the future and change then the business regarding that. And always think about the business first. And then the owners and some individuals comes in the family. always, if the business is going well, we feel, everybody feels well.
Someone shared a famous quote with me the other day, which is, I prefer to talk about the future because that's where I plan to live. This brings us to the end of this event. Thank you all for watching and participating on social media. But a huge thank you to you, Lari, Mario, Will, and Sue Kwan. If you'd like more information about our study, Same Passion, Different Paths, please go to the URL on the screen where you can download a copy. And finally, thank you to everyone, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.